Welcome, and thank you for joining today's webinar on navigating the Comprehensive Support and Improvement, or CSI, planning process. This session is designed to support district leaders, school administrators, and school improvement team members as they move from identification to implementation. Today's roadmap walks through the CSI planning journey step by step, beginning with identification in November and ending with plan submission and launch in September. Our focus is not only on what is required, but on how to approach this work strategically so that the final plan is meaningful, coherent, and positioned for strong implementation. This presentation is organized around the cycle for continuous improvement. CSI planning is a continuous loop of evidence, analysis, implementation, monitoring, and reflection that repeats throughout the year. CSI planning is not designed to be rushed. Instead, it allows schools to engage in deep analysis, involve stakeholders, and build a plan that reflects both need and capacity. Throughout this webinar, we will show how each month serves a specific purpose and how thoughtful pacing improves the quality of the final plan. CSI planning is not a separate process from continuous improvement. It operates entirely within it. Throughout this roadmap, schools are moving through the same cycle repeatedly, gathering evidence, analyzing what it tells us, implementing targeted actions, monitoring progress, and reflecting on what adjustments are needed. The phases in this presentation simply organize where schools are emphasizing different parts of that cycle at different points in time. As we move through this roadmap, I'll continue to name where we are in the cycle for continuous improvement so you can see how planning, implementation, and monitoring connect across the year. This slide shows the full CSI planning timeline at a glance. The most important takeaway is that CSI planning is a deliberate process, not a single event or checklist. Each portion of the timeline serves a distinct purpose and builds toward the next phase of work. While this roadmap is organized into 3 phases, the cycle for continuous improvement runs across all of them. You will see the cycle repeat at different levels, during planning, during implementation, and during monitoring. The early months are intentionally focused on understanding the problem, examining data, engaging stakeholders, and identifying root causes. The middle months shift to designing solutions by translating those needs into clear goals, strategies, and aligned resources. The final months focus on readiness, ensuring systems, communication, and monitoring structures are in place for a strong start to implementation. When schools follow this sequence, plans are clearer, priorities are more focused, and implementation is more feasible. Schools that try to compress or skip steps often encounter challenges later, such as misaligned budgets, unclear expectations, or difficulty sustaining implementation. This timeline exists to ensure that each phase builds intentionally toward meaningful and sustainable improvement. While this timeline is presented as an 11-month planning journey, the cycle for continuous improvement is active throughout the entire process. Evidence gathered early informs decisions later, and implementation planning anticipates how progress will be monitored once the plan is launched. To make the CSI planning process more manageable, the journey is intentionally organized into 3 phases: foundation and discovery, strategy and planning, and finalization and launch. Structuring the work this way helps teams focus on the right actions at the right time, rather than trying to do everything at once. Each phase is anchored by a guiding question. Phase 1 asks, "Why are we here?" This is where teams build a shared understanding of their current reality through evidence and root cause analysis. Phase 2 asks, what are we going to do about it? During this phase, priority needs are translated into focused goals, strategies, and aligned resources. Phase 3 asks, how do we ensure a strong start? This is where planning gives way to action with clear communication, leadership readiness, and systems in place for day one implementation. While the work is organized into phases, it is important to remember that they do not stand alone. Each phase emphasizes different parts of the cycle for continuous improvement, but all are tightly connected. Strong CSI planning depends on maintaining clear links between evidence, analysis, and action, so that decisions made in earlier phases directly inform implementation and ongoing monitoring once the plan is launched. Phase 1 runs from November through February and focuses on understanding the landscape and defining the why. Phase 1 primarily emphasizes the evidence and analyze components of the cycle for continuous improvement. The focus here is on building a shared understanding of the school's current reality by examining multiple data sources and identifying root causes of underperformance before moving to solutions. During this phase, schools mobilize the right team, establish a clear planning process, and conduct a comprehensive needs assessment. The goal is not to jump to solutions, but to deeply understand the root causes of underperformance across academics, culture, talent, and operations. Phase 1 begins with intentional mobilization. Schools review official CSI identification materials and accountability reports, notify key school and district leaders, and designate a school improvement team with clear roles and responsibilities. District school planning calendars are established to keep the process on track. At the same time, schools launch the CNA using CSDE guidance, ensuring shared understanding of expectations, timelines, and outcomes. A strong CNA is built on multiple sources of evidence. Schools should analyze achievement and growth data, subgroup performance trends, attendance, discipline, and graduation data. Just as importantly, schools review prior improvement plans and gather stakeholder input from staff, families, and students. The goal is not to collect data for compliance, but to build a clear and honest picture of student experience and system performance. January marks the shift from data collection to analysis. This is the point where teams move from gathering information to making sense of what it's telling them. During this time, schools finalize the comprehensive needs assessment across all TACO domains, talent, academics, culture and climate, and operations, and engage in root cause analysis that is directly tied to priority student outcomes. The goal is not just to identify challenges, but to understand the underlying reasons those challenges exist. Findings should be validated with school leadership and the school improvement team, clearly documented, and shared with district leadership to ensure alignment and a shared understanding of priorities. In the cycle for continuous improvement, this work represents the transition from evidence to analyze, moving beyond describing what is happening to understanding why it is happening, so future strategies address root causes rather than surface-level symptoms. The Phase 1 deliverable is a completed comprehensive needs assessment. The completed CNA serves as the evidence-based foundation for the entire cycle for continuous improvement. Every goal, strategy, and monitoring measure developed in later phases should be traceable back to the needs identified here. This is where the cycle for continuous improvement shifts from evidence and analysis to planning for implementation. Phase 2 runs from March through May and focuses on translating needs into action. Phase 2 emphasizes the analyze and implement components of the cycle. Schools use the findings from the CNA to identify priority needs, set focused goals, and design strategies that are evidence-based, feasible, and aligned to available resources. In March, schools make a critical shift from analysis to action by moving from identified needs to clearly defined goals. Using the comprehensive needs assessment as the anchor, schools translate their highest priority needs into SMART goals, goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. These goals should be explicitly centered on student outcomes and clearly articulate what improvement will look like and how progress will be measured. An important principle at this stage is focus. Strong CSI plans do not attempt to address every need at once. Instead, they prioritize the needs that will have the greatest impact on student learning and experience. Not every finding from the CNA becomes a goal, but every goal should be directly traceable back to a documented need. If a goal does not clearly change the student experience or outcomes, it should not be a CSI priority. During March and April, schools define how the work will happen. Action plans include clear steps, timelines, designated owners, progress monitoring measures, and professional learning supports. At the same time, districts align Title I, school improvement grants, alliance grants if applicable, and local funds to support these priorities and conduct a resource allocation review to ensure coherence. Before finalizing the draft plan, teams assess feasibility. This includes reviewing staffing, schedules, leadership capacity, and sustainability. Plans are refined to ensure they can be implemented well, not just written well. This step is critical for avoiding overextension and implementation fatigue. By the end of Phase 2, schools should have a comprehensive draft school improvement plan and a fully aligned preliminary budget. This draft reflects intentional alignment from CNA to strategies to resources and is ready for district review and refinement. From May through July, the focus shifts to refinement and readiness. Districts conduct structured reviews, provide feedback, and ensure alignment across the plan. This stage strengthens plan quality and prepares schools to move confidently into implementation. In May, districts review plan quality and coherence. June focuses on transition planning, finalizing beginning of the year benchmarks, professional learning plans, and staff communication. In July, districts complete final compliance checks, secure approvals, and prepare materials for submission. Phase 3 runs from June through September and serves as the bridge between planning and practice. This is where the work shifts from developing the plan to ensuring the people, systems, and routines are ready for implementation. During this phase, the focus is on clear and consistent communication with staff, finalizing logistics such as schedules, roles, and supports, and putting progress monitoring systems in place before students arrive. The goal is for implementation to begin on day 1 of the school year, not weeks later, so strategies outlined in the plan are immediately activated, expectations are clear, and early monitoring can inform timely adjustments. Strong preparation in Phase 3 protects momentum. When systems are not ready on day 1, implementation is delayed and momentum becomes much harder to rebuild. Although the roadmap is organized into phases, the cycle for continuous improvement continues as schools move into implementation. Evidence gathered early in implementation feeds monitoring and reflection, allowing teams to adjust quickly and strengthen impact from the very start. In August, schools focus on final preparations to ensure a strong start to implementation. This includes finalizing communication plans for staff and stakeholders, confirming leadership readiness, and preparing the initial implementation actions so expectations and priorities are clear before the school year begins. In September, schools establish beginning of year baselines, submit the final CSI school improvement plan to the CSDE by September 1st, and formally launch implementation with staff. Just as importantly, schools begin the first progress monitoring cycle, using early indicators to assess whether strategies are being implemented as intended. September 1st represents a significant milestone. While it marks the official submission of the plan, it more importantly signals the launch of the school improvement cycle. From this point forward, the work shifts to disciplined implementation, ongoing monitoring, and continuous improvement focused on student outcomes. This slide brings the entire CSI journey together. What's important to emphasize here is that CSI planning is not a collection of disconnected requirements. Each phase is intentionally sequenced, and each deliverable builds on the one before it. The comprehensive needs assessment anchors the work by clearly defining why improvement is needed and where the greatest leverage points are. That analysis directly informs the strategies and goals in the draft school improvement plan, which are then refined through district review to ensure coherence, feasibility, and alignment of resources. By the time schools reach plan submission and launch, they're not starting from scratch. They are entering implementation with shared understanding, clear priorities, aligned funding, and defined monitoring routines. When schools follow this sequence, planning becomes clearer because priorities are well defined, implementation becomes stronger because actions are realistic and resourced, and monitoring becomes more meaningful because it's tied to intentional goals rather than compliance checklists. Submitting the school improvement plan marks the end of planning, but it is truly the starting line for the work ahead. From this point forward, the focus shifts fully into the implement, monitor, and reflect stages of the cycle for continuous improvement. At this point, success is no longer determined by the quality of the document, but by the quality of implementation. Plans only lead to improvement when strategies are carried out with consistency, monitored intentionally, and adjusted based on evidence of impact. That means using progress monitoring routines to check not just whether actions are happening, but whether they are beginning to make a difference for students. It means revisiting goals, reflecting on early indicators, and making mid-course corrections as part of an ongoing improvement cycle rather than waiting until the end of the year. The cycle for continuous improvement does not end with submission. It becomes the structure for how schools implement, monitor, reflect, and refine their work throughout the year. Throughout this process, the CSDE Turnaround Office remains a partner. Our role is to support, monitor, and collaborate with districts and schools as implementation unfolds. We encourage you to reach out with questions, challenges, or requests for support as you move from planning into action. Thank you for your commitment to this work and for your continued partnership in improving outcomes for students through the CSI improvement process.